Good afternoon and welcome to Aico TV. I'm Alex Garmston.
And I'm Holly Moore.
And today we're joining you from our studio in Oswestry. We have a really fun-packed lineup for you on today's episode. But firstly, just to let you know, Aico TV is moving to a monthly slot. You did have the pleasure of seeing us every week, but now unfortunately you only get to see us once a month. This is due to us being out and about at events and being back out on the road with our mobile units. So here's what's coming up on today's episode.
We begin the episode with part 2 of the RSP Fire Sprinkler Systems mini-series.
Then we have a case study with Hull KWL.
Then we will be out and about with our Regional Specification Managers sharing best practice in London.
And finally we have our FAQ, where do I fit an EI 3028 heat and CO alarm?
In the first session of today's episode, we're going to return to the RSP Fire Sprinkler Systems mini-series with our Regional Specification Manager for Wales, Dan Thomas. He is joined by Dan Newman, John Newman and Anthony Newman of RSP Fire Sprinkler Systems, and they are going to be looking at their experiences with the SmartLINK Gateway, the main products of ours that they use and where they see our relationship heading in the future.
So, John, we gave you a little tour of the facility earlier, and you came across one of our newest products, our SmartLINK Gateway. And just,
it looks really interesting, actually. Yeah.
What was the interest from your point of view?
Well, I did mention earlier about us developing this dedicated sprinkler main, because the domestic water main very often fails. And we have, at the moment, this main, if you imagine we have a supply from the water company comes into, it's like a BT cabinet, if you like. And inside that cabinet we have a pump that then pumps it back out around the whole estate. And the problem we've got is that there's no alarm necessarily from that pump to any alert centre, emergency centre. My brother is a bit of a boffin sometimes. He's created a little unit that we are using, but it's something that we've done. And I spotted that on the tour earlier and thought that could do exactly what we're after, really. We need, a pump gives off two particular signals. One is a pump failure, which is usually loss of power, and obviously pump running, which is pumping the water, which suggests a sprinkler has gone off somewhere. So, and sometimes it can be a false alarm for whatever reason. Someone might burst a pipe somewhere or whatever, you know. So we want that. We would need to know, because if that pump just keeps running, then it can run for days without any residents saying there's a pumping out the street or there's a noise coming from the cabinet. So this looks like it might do the trick.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, that last point you made there is kind of one of the reasons why we have this, is that tenants, occupants don't necessarily tell you when there's a problem. So this is basically it's designed originally for the alarms to speak to this radio frequency to basically give then a signal out to a cloud portal. So if I'm a housing association with 10,000 properties, whatever it is, that I get full visibility of those properties. So when the alarms are going off, is it fire or is it carbon monoxide? How much CO? How much, what sort of level of fire? Head removals, low battery indications, things like that. So basically all the tools that aid sort of making sure that the assets are still in place, because some tenants do tend to sort of take them out. And if there is an issue that you're getting an alert to it, again, tenants don't always say that there is a problem, or they falsify a problem. So this is basically giving you that information back on a cloud portal. It's something that came out start of last year, directly linking the fire alarms in. Middle of this year now we'll have our environmental sensors, so condensation, damp and mould sensors that will also link into this. So obviously with the net zero in Wales, and obviously with all the issues with condensation, damp and mould, this is aiding that technology. It's as I say, it's radio frequency, so the alarm speaks to it within the property, and it then has a GSM SIM card in there. So there's a 2G SIM card in there. So the gateway itself comes with 10 years worth of data, so it's a very cost-effective piece of kit. And basically, giving you all that information on fire activation and environmental information within the property. But in addition to that, there's no reason why you can't have this, as you say, in a property or a block of flats, for example, and a unit that you actually use to link the sprinkler flow switch to the alarms ordinarily, a switched input module, that basically does exactly the same thing. So you can have that sprinkler flow switch with that module in flat 1, for example. And when you set up the system, you call it flat 1 sprinkler valve, flat 2, flat 3, flat 4, so on and so forth. So basically, when something happens in that property, that'll send a signal to this, and then again you can on your cloud portal review the information on there and say, right, that's flat 7 on 25 Aico Road has gone off. That can be text and email alerts as well. So basically you would just add somebody's email and telephone number in there, and basically every time something happens you would get that alert. So is that the sort of technology you would think you were sort of going down the line?
My brother Anthony mentioned as well, he's quite right, we do a lot of small estates for social housing, could be just maybe half a dozen or so houses. And whilst we don't necessarily have to alarm the sprinkler system, we would prefer it to be alarmed. And it seems to me, I don't know what the distance is for this in terms of transmission.
Well, it's as any radio frequency Aico device is, it's 150 metres in free air. We normally say a maximum of 30 metres, taking into account sort of internal partitions up to 12 and things like that.
So a small crescent of houses or something like that.
Should be fine, to be honest with you. Been very reliable in the past. My RF, I've got a man cave down the bottom of the garden, and it's probably as a crow flies a good 20 metres. So it's going through several walls. And the signal is very strong down there as it happens.
Because the thing with very often in social housing as well, perhaps I shouldn't say this, but you could have sorry, my mic has fallen off. Let me just do this. With social housing, sometimes unfortunately you will get, let's call it the wrong type of tenant who might deliberately damage a sprinkler system for an insurance claim. Well, if there's no alarm on there, we think of alarms for fire, but there is a possibility of water, obviously. Yeah. Quite rare, but it does happen. This would solve that problem. So the housing association would be safe in the knowledge as well, as even if there's not a fire, but there's been an activation of the system through perhaps negligence on the part of the resident, this would deal with it. Absolutely.
Well, a lot of the RSLs are actually fitting this already anyway, obviously from the fire side of things. So it's something that could easily just be tapped in as I say, as an add-on with the sprinkler system. It makes a lot of sense. As you say, there are a certain set of undesirables, whatever the appropriate word is. That probably isn't the appropriate word, but that, as you say, they potentially cause damage to the property. You need to know about that. If you don't know about it, that situation is only going to get worse. It's not going to get better.
Well, the fire that Daniel mentioned on this housing estate in Cardiff. We had to tell the housing association there'd been a fire there, even after the fire had been put out and the fire brigade had been and all the chaos that went around it. The housing association had no idea. I don't think the tenant wanted to tell them.
No. I was with an RSL the other day, as it happens, and the reason I was there is one of our other technologies, Audio Link, which is pulling information off an alarm whilst you're at site. So basically, with an app, press the test button on the alarm and it sends out a sound to your phone. And there was a couple of instances where the tenant had actually rung up and said, look, my CO alarm's going off. They went out to the property, did a download off the CO alarm, and it hadn't had an activation. As it happens, it was the smoke alarms that were activating. Wales and West utilities were obviously capping off the gas in a property which had no issues. Nothing against Wales and West. They were doing what they should be doing. Where this would be telling you that information up front, instead of relying on the tenant to talk to you. And if the tenant is talking to you, at least you can say to them, look, no, it's actually your fire alarms that are going off. Just go and give them a bit of a clean, usual sort of thing. Bit of engagement with that tenant as well, which actually goes to get.
Is this addressable then, where it would say, you could say this is coming from the pump or whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you set it up, it's set up via an app. So basically, on all the products, there's a little QR code on there. So what you do is you scan the gateway. You say, right, where have you put it? I've put it in the cupboard. You scan your next alarm. I'll put it in the XYZ, so on and so forth. Build your system. And of course, then with your sprinkler pumps, you can say, well, this is pump 1 on ground floor. If it's a block of flats, this is zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, so on and so forth. And yeah, absolutely then. So at least, when you get that signal through, you know exactly where the problem is. Absolutely.
It's good for valve monitoring as well, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Is there a maximum amount of inputs you can...
Yeah, so it's 18 devices, 18 RF devices, not including the gateway, so it's quite a robust unit. How the majority of RSLs are using this is it's one alarm per property, easier to manage. Again, with the cost of it now especially, it's very reasonable. But you know, a lot of these, again, because we're up to an LD2 and even LD1 now in sheltered accommodation, that's an alarm in every room. You know, we are sort of building it up, but you know, with several sort of sprinkler pumps or valves onto this is well reasonable for a single property, really.
You work with Swansea Council, don't you?
Yeah, we do a lot of work with the council.
I'm not sure if this is on the estate you were on the other day.
It probably is, yeah. They're doing a lot of properties in their high rises and their sheltered schemes. So again, from the sheltered point of view, it's that sort of extra sort of.
We're just commissioning a sheltered scheme now. I think it's 10 little blocks.
Right. Okay.
And I'm pretty sure that.
Yeah, they fitted, I don't know, just shy of 700 already last year. Last financial year, they're going to go through the rest of the sheltered and the high rise. Again, the high rise, it's the type of tenant is the main driver behind that. But of course, your sprinklers are in there anyway, so it's would easily tag in. In fact, with minimal efforts, the system's already installed. All you would do is just add to system. So you add the flow switch, scan it, connect it in, job done. It's a really simple add-on to a system, for sure.
Leading question there. Could we have one for our training room?
You can certainly have one. I'll sort you one out. Don't worry about that. We'll get you one to go back with today, actually. That's a good idea. Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose Anthony didn't grab one off the wall earlier.
I did see him yanking at it. But no, and again, it's something we give training on. It's very intuitive. The app is very intuitive to set up. But you know, we obviously, part of our expert installer training, you know, there's module on installation of these. Again, you know, there is other things to consider, siting and so on and so forth. So just some other things that me and you, Dan, were talking about, and I think you sort of highlighted what you see us doing. I think we've done a few events now over the last 6 months virtually, unfortunately not face-to-face, but it is what it is again. But you sort of picked up on one of the events we had with our corporate social responsibility, the amount we do in the community now. And also, it was actually George Clark, I think, who was one of the speakers on one of our events, talking about sort of all the sort of initiatives that he's doing. Is there anything you wanted to sort of talk about in that?
Yeah,
aspect?
definitely. Well, a few things. So I'll try and keep it short and sweet. But yeah, I feel that as we're developing the business now, you know, we've gone through a lot of significant growth, which has brought us challenges. I mean, the challenges a lot of people would envy right now in this climate. But needless to say, we can't let an opportunity of providing meaningful employment and gainful work slip through our fingers if we don't bang the business together in the right ways, like you guys have achieved over the years. What I'm steering towards now is developing a corporate social responsibility for RSP that I've enjoyed in other companies I've worked for in the past. And the work that Aico do, you know, they devote time for their employees to engage in volunteering activities that are important to them. I think that's crucial. Yeah. They just didn't come from top down in the way of, well, I'm passionate about this, so therefore you have to be. I think there are a lot of fantastic causes out there we can all tap into, but the ones that really engage us are the ones that mean something to us. And I saw as well that you guys have a particular alignment with sorting helping support a local organisation that's about like food in the community and things like that. Yeah. I really think that's good. So I'm looking at developing a corporate social responsibility policy in our own business that really projects our family values that we share amongst the three of us, so many people can tap into within the organisation, and also combining it with a sort of business aspect as well, with what makes sense for what we do. So with life safety, fire protection, there's not many jobs out there that can hand the purpose on a plate, you know, and really impassion you to get through the bumps in the road that can help you deliver on these things. I know that the Red Cross do fantastic work where if you're a victim of fire, basically the Red Cross sends someone out in like a little motorhome, and they go to your doorstep, they sort of comfort you, counsel you, change your clothes, you know, a hot drink, things like this. So while the emergency services are handling everything, they're handling that sort of human touch. So I'll be speaking to the Red Cross sort of shortly to see how we can align ourselves with that. And we're a business of around 35 to 40 people, all in all. And I think as we're looking to grow further and further, that sort of alignment will be achievable. That's the corporate social responsibility part. But the seminars that I was fortunate enough to be invited on by yourself, Smarter Homes, Safer Communities.
That's the one, yeah.
2 days, they were full days, they were brilliant. I mean, the sort of speakers they had on there, the ones that jump out for me was Sir Tim Berners-Lee, the guy who invented the internet, essentially. Cruel irony, because I think his connection was playing up.
His connection was bad on the day, typical.
There we go. At times. Steve Wozniak.
Yeah.
You know, to be sort of, although it was virtual, from the comfort of your own home, to be learning from these guys, facilitated by Aico, which was fantastically presented all the way through. And then to be educated by speakers that are as engaging, such as George Clark and Judith Hackett. Brilliant. I mean, the George Clark session, he's much more than a TV personality and architect. He's an incredible sort of lobbyer and an enabler as well, an educator. And I was fortunate enough for him and Judith Hackett to have my question asked first, which I was really grateful for. And when I put to George Clark was, you know, how does he feel about the rest of the UK following Wales's lead in fire sprinklers? And how does he feel about us accessing the existing housing stock to look at retrofitting? Now, he sort of suggested that I think 99% of the housing market is existing housing stock, and how there's such a disparity, an inconsistency across different communities about where the resources are pooled to ensure that people are living safely. And there was talk about decarbonisation, which was great, but it's under public health and life safety. There's a lot more we can do as a community to add that social value. So I really like what he said about ensuring that it must be legislated. It can't be left to sort of picking and choosing. It's got to be fair across the board. And if it's there, it should be in. If it can be done, it should be there.
Yeah.
He talked quite emotionally, actually, in this session.
He was very impassioned, wasn't he? It
Yeah.
was fantastic to see.
He was talking about the stigma that comes with social housing and community homes, community houses, council houses, and the like. And he talked about the Grenfell situation, and he said, "Oh, just in the skylight here, I can see where the Green Heart is." And he said, on the evening when it all happened, he was alerted by the fact that he could smell smoke coming into his house. And he sort of got up disorientated in a panic, thinking his house was on fire, because it was that profound. And then he went out to see Grenfell. He was out there trying to get people out. And I thought he was tearing up when he was talking through it. And you can kind of see for every situation that goes on out there that you feel you're in an industry that can play a part in ensuring that never happens again. It seems like any sort of deaths or trauma that come from fire just shouldn't happen anymore. You know, we've got the technology and the means to make sure it doesn't, yet it still does.
21st century, you know, it's ridiculous.
It's crazy, it's tragic. So he said some crucial things about putting people before profit. And Judith Hackett, I won't go into that too much. Judith Hackett, I asked her about how she felt about recognising competency. And we talked about certification already, and this work I'm doing on a committee with BAFSA, our trade association, about professionalising our installers. Judith Hackett said something that rung in my ears really about the measures she's going to be policing. And she talked about, did you want to be a leader or a latecomer? And I thought, yeah, that's the theme now for our strategy in professionalising our guys to make sure that we're delivering our promises, and that's to save people's lives.
Absolutely.
So I can't thank you, Aico, enough. It was 2 long days in the comfort of my own home, and it was
They were very, very enjoyable myself,
really
to be honest with you. Yeah, I sort of watched them and sort of chipped in with a few questions and answers, and it was just it was a fun day. And I never thought I'd be working for a company to the level where we've got Steve Wozniak sort of on there, which is absolutely amazing, you know. So and again, thank you for attending. It was excellent. Yeah, but just back to the corporate social responsibility side of things, just something I wanted to highlight and see what your thoughts are on it. Obviously, you say you've got 30-40 employees. Aico, about 60-70 employees on the in the organisation this side. We all get 3 days given to us, so out to the company time, not out of our holidays or anything like that. We get given 3 days a year now. It was 2 days last year, 3 days this, to go out and do good in the community, whatever you want to do. Just an example, last year we supported a charity called Willowdean, which is like a female refuge. So I was there for a couple of days, painting walls, and it was on a farm, so just helping with the animals and stuff like that. As a Welshman, there's some dodgy goat pictures of myself, and unfortunately it's been circulated on Aico. But it was just very. It made me feel fantastic as an employee to be actually gifted that to go and do good. It makes me feel good. Is that something you'd consider with your own employees?
Definitely. I'd like it needs a bit of development without a doubt, to figure out what's sustainable but mostly meaningful. And I'd like to do a sort of a business-wide initiative, such as aligning ourselves with the Red Cross as an example, but also breaking it down into individual levels of engagement then. So perhaps it's not for me to suggest that an animal charity is as important as someone as a cancer charity, for example. Do you know what I mean? So you can't trade one off against the other. No. I think you can have a corporate-wide initiative, but also, allow the individuals to say, actually, this particular charity is important to me. And I think, people, however engaging you make the work, I think, if we've installed, say, hundreds of heads in the last X amount of months and so many miles of pipe, there's always going to be something quite monotonous potentially about the tasks that you do. So to be able to sort of drop tools for a moment for something that's quite purposeful but takes you out of your comfort zone, I think you're not just adding value to the community but to yourself as well. You're developing skills that perhaps you had that are gone a bit rusty, or you're developing sort of new skills completely. You might find that someone like me is a bit of an office monkey, might actually enjoy getting out there and drilling a few things, or painting or whatever, So I'm really looking into that. I think we're at the stage of the business now where that forms a crucial part of our future, that it's about people and it's about community.
Absolutely. When you said about the Red Cross before, I didn't know that they actually had a sort of a mobile home that comes out and sort of aids in that way. What a fantastic charity, Right, Red Cross always do fantastic things, but I never realised that. It's so close to our industry as well. That's amazing. So okay. Anything else we want to talk about?
I think you had a quite. Is this something about media attention, passive and active fire? Is that something you had on your list? That you said
did I have that on there? I don't think I did.
I mean, sprinklers always get more press or something.
Oh, sorry. I think to be fair, John kind of answered that on the bat. I think you jumped in with it, but we'll ask the question actually. So again, we'll edit this bit out. But just a question to all three of you. Sprinkler systems, obviously, legislation in Wales, and obviously do great things. But obviously, from a statistical point of view, smoke alarms obviously save a lot more lives. And it doesn't quite get the same press in Wales at the moment. Just wanted a bit of a tongue-in-cheek sort of question to you guys, of course, being fire alarms.
Yeah, I would like to say I do think you get a bit of a poor press because the whole thing about sprinklers is it saves lives and property. But it's not quite as simple as that. If you have a fire in someone's home, certainly the first thing that tells them there's something going on is the fire alarm. And it's that really that saves their life, essentially, because it tells them, look, there's a fire, get out of the property. And then the sprinklers follow up and they make sure the property is safe, and if it's in a block of flats, it stops the fire spreading then as well to others and endangering other lives.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit unfair that you guys don't necessarily get.
It does sort of smart a little bit, but ultimately, as you say, both systems are essential. The alarm's there to save lives. The sprinkler's there to save the spread of fire, particularly in a block of flats, So it's both are as important as each other. But, again, with Grenfell in mind, things like that are going to sort of gain more press.
We see ourselves as the cavalry, because you're John Wayne, you're saying, hey, come on, let's get out of here. And then the cavalry comes in the form of sprinklers.
I like that analogy, John.
Can't do the accent, no?
No.
Okay.
Get the hell out of here.
Right, okay. Edit that bit out. I think we're funny, we're human beings. We get very complacent and take things for granted. I mean, as soon as something becomes the fabric of your home, you don't even see it anymore. And I kind of think, anyway, that's kind of the ideal with what we do. We want to integrate into people's lives and people's homes. And we want people to live comfortably and not in a state of anxiety that something's going to go wrong. But bad news always sells, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But when we think about the case studies we've had, of all the sprinkler heads that we fitted, we've probably had half a dozen sprinkler saves just for our business alone. And for the sort of rescues that prompts you to think of, to avoid mass evacuation, displacement, business interruption, injury, trauma, death. I don't mean to spiral into something morbid, but we're short. Human beings are very short memory, short-lived sort of successes like that. But I think it's important to recognise though that passive and active and the fire and rescue service, alarms, sprinklers, and the firemen, we're a fantastic community that protects people that need us most. I mean, I grew up watching programs like London's Burning that I shouldn't be watching at that age probably, which kind of left it in my head that thankfully I haven't been affected by fire. It does happen, and when it happens, it can be life-changing. With RSP looking to become, the fabric of all houses now in Wales and maybe a household name in the future, I'd like to think that, they're drawn also to the attention that when something does happen, there's enough going on in their home that's been put in by the right people that will protect them and their family.
Yeah.
One item I'm curious about, and this stems from an Aico session I attended some years ago now. We had the fire service talking about how alarms would work for children in particular. And they were saying that boys can sleep through any alarm, basically.
That's right, yeah.
Girls, they were talking about girls being naturally nurturing. They tended to wake up to the sound of an alarm.
Yeah.
And they were saying about they were investigating certain things, like possibly having a pre-recorded message from your mother saying, "Come on, wake up, there's a fire." Did anything ever develop out of that?
It's still being talked about. We're doing some work with Dundee University. It all stemmed off the back of the unfortunate fire deaths of the 5 children in Derby.
Yeah, that's right.
And I remember a seminar we had with the Chief Fire Officer from Derby Fire and Rescue was down to do a talk. And we've been working obviously in conjunction. Our alarms were in the property. The alarms went off as they should. The British standard stipulates, the alarm, and the alarms were tested. The frequency at which they went off and the volume was spot on. But as you say, the issue lied with actually children not waking up. I suppose the stance really is that we have to adhere to the British standard.
Oh yeah.
It is something we're still looking into. But ultimately, again, that incident was obviously a bit of a bizarre and very unfortunate one. But there should be a fire strategy within the property themselves. So if the alarms are going off, the parents wake up and are alerted to that. You obviously go and wake up your kids or grab your kids and get out the property. But yeah, it's certainly something that can be looked into. I mean, again, with the way our technology is going with HomeLink and the connected living, there's no reason why we can't look at those sort of things in the future. And I dare say when British standards again change and update, that if it comes in, we'll obviously ensure that it goes straight in there.
It was a really interesting talk, and I was just curious.
Yeah, no, it was an interesting one. You just wouldn't think. You wouldn't assume, your alarm's going off at 85 decibels at 3 meters. It's a very loud piece of equipment that you would wake anyone up, But young boys in particular just not reacting to it was a shock to the system. My lad at the time I think he was probably 12 at the time, and it got me thinking. I've got alarms everywhere in the house, but we didn't have a fire strategy before that, and we certainly do now. So.
It's a curious thing though, isn't it? Because when you're when you have kids and you're settling down your baby, who's very tricky to settle down, the one thing that tends to wake them up is the parent putting their head gently on the pillow. That's enough to get the baby kicking off again. Yeah. So yeah, it is unfortunate that you just can't predict this stuff, can you? Until unfortunately something happens.
It's like anything, isn't it? Things only get corrected when there's a big incident. I'm a Formula 1 fan, so just to put it into context, the halo protection on a Formula 1 car, and everyone was berating it when it first came out because it looks ugly and this, that, and the other. And if anyone saw Roman Grosjean's crash a couple of months back, it just goes to prove its worth. Thank God that was there in advance of. But normally it's the other way around, as you say. It's Grenfell is the prime example again, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, one of the concerns we always get as well, particularly with not so much with like Bellways and your big developers, with your private customers, they're always concerned about water damage. If the sprinkler head goes off, it's going to ruin my house. And it always makes you smile a little bit, because I think, well, your house is going to burn down, but you're worried about a bit of water. Now, thanks to the Hollywood films and even more like a kind of recent episode of EastEnders I've seen, they tend to show when a sprinkler head is going off, they'll all be going off together.
Going, yeah.
So everywhere the head is going off, but that's not the case. If there's a fire in a kitchen, usually only one head will go off. The one in the living room or the bedroom is not going to go off. And the amount of water that one of these will displace is roughly about 40 to 50 litres a minute, John, isn't it? Now, you can guarantee if the fire service has got to go there, they're not going to get there for 10 to 15 minutes, perhaps.
Yeah.
And without sprinklers, the house is is quite a mess already, isn't it?
It's one that makes me laugh because,
Yeah.
as you say, it's going to flood my house. Well, it's better to have the house still in place. It's going to cost less to sort out the water damage than it is to sort out the fire damage.
Well,
right.
not only that, the fire service are going to put in, I think it's something like 900 litres a
Oh,
minute
that's true
compared to our
enough,
50 litres a minute.
Yeah.
So it's quite dramatic, really, the difference.
We had an instance. There was a house of the homeless, John, wasn't it? And this was about 4 years ago. And John's got photographs on his phone. And I always talk about this when I meet a potential customer. And I'll tell him about this chap who set fire to his clothes in the middle of his bed sit. For whatever reason, and unknown to anybody, he set fire to his clothes. Had a raging fire going on in the flat, and the sprinkler head put the fire out. At the time, we didn't install this system. It was a system that was installed about 15, 20 years ago, and they hadn't had anybody at that particular time to even look after the sprinklers. So they got hold of ourselves. We went down here within, I think it was about 2 days of the fire, John. And when we got there, they took us to the bed sit, and there was a kitchen roll in the corner, which was completely dry. Other than a little yellow stain on the ceiling, where the flames were licking the ceiling before the head went off, and a mark on the carpet, it all dried out. So a lick of paint, changed the sprinkler head, and it was up and running.
Yeah.
Within a day or two.
Says it all. Says
Yeah,
it all, doesn't
yeah,
it? Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, just guys, thank you very much. Thank you very much for travelling all the way up here. It's, I know it's a good sort of 2.5, 3 hour drive, down a bit further, of course. So, yeah, just really appreciate your time and very engaging, enjoyable conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So thank you to Dan, John and Anthony for joining us for that mini-series. It was great to have them in the studio. Next up, we're going to go to an advert and we're going to look at our 3000 series.
Welcome back. We really hoped you enjoyed that advert for the 3000 series. Next up, we're in Hull. We're going to go to our National Sales Manager, Daniel Little, who's with our Regional Specification Manager, Tony Teal. They're going to be talking to KWL, which is Kingstown Works Ltd, about their large-scale expert installer session. KWL work with Hull City Council, and they work with them around 26,000 properties in Hull. Let's go over to them and see how they got on.
Hello, I'm Daniel Little, National Sales Manager here at Aico. Today I'm over in Hull, where we're delivering some bespoke training to KWL, the main contractor of Hull City Council. Hull City Council are a key client for Aico. They've decided to install our SmartLINK Gateway within the entire housing stock. And the purpose of today is really to ensure that KWL and the installation team are 100% happy with the installation process of the gateway. Delivering the training today, we've got Sam and Mike from our new product development team, and we've also got Tony Teal, who is the local Regional Specification Manager. And hopefully we'll also be able to grab an interview with Shaun Smith, who's the lead manager from KWL.
Afternoon, Tony Teal, Regional Specification Manager for Yorkshire. We're here over in Hull today with Dan behind the camera there. We've got Sam up and Mike up from the office, the product guys. We're presenting a number of training sessions today for KWL with regards to the gateway. Put together a bespoke presentation. I think we're on the 4th or 5th session so far with 2 to go. The weather's staying right, there's no rain, but I'm sure that'll hold off until we get in the cars later on. For now, that'll do. See you later.
Yeah, so we're out with training with KWL in Hull today. From our perspective, we're training on the gateway, and the gateway's obviously been in the market for over 12 months now. For us, it's good to get feedback from installers that have actually installed the gateway and really bringing their feedback on anything we can do to further improve the product and enhance it. So yeah, so a big thank you from us to KWL for their input and feedback, and yeah, it's really helped us to continue to advance the product. So yeah, it's been a great day.
My name's Shaun Smith. I work for KWL. Currently we're doing installing gateways for Hull City Council. They've got roughly around 25,000 housing stock, and we're beginning to roll out the gateways installations in our domestic properties. We've really appreciated the support that Aico have provided in training our staff, and that's why we're here today, to kind of make sure our staff are confident and they've got all the information they need to go and kind of get a right first time upload and installation on all our systems. So yeah, we appreciate the support we've got from Aico today and previously, and we look forward to working with them in the future.
Right, that's us done. It's been a great day with KWL. I got 6 sessions finished, 40 odd guys. Still sunny. It's time to get back to good old Leeds.
Really hope you enjoyed that session with Daniel Little and Tony Teal. It was great to hear from Shaun Smith of KWL, the electrical supervisor there. He gave a really great insight to how Expert Installer is benefiting them, and it's great to see the work they're doing in Hull. But now we're going to go to another advert, and we're going to take a look at our SmartLINK Gateway. See you shortly.
Introducing the SmartLINK Gateway and Cloud Portal service from Aico. A new and innovative product developed with registered social landlords and housing associations, giving you complete control and reassurance when monitoring and maintaining your stock of alarms through SmartLINK Cloud Portal. Easy to set up, the Gateway is a roaming 2G GSM-based device, ensuring maximum connectivity possible without the need for local broadband or Wi-Fi services, increasing efficiency while remaining compliant with legislation. Featuring real-time alarm status, fault status, text alert and email notification capability for both fire or CO and fault events, as well as installation reports and replacement and fault reports. The SmartLINK Gateway and Cloud Portal service is your total solution for alarm maintenance and asset management. the smarter way to check your tenant safety at any time. SmartLINK, a revolution in tenant safety.
Welcome back. We're now going to go to the third segment of today's show. We're going to be joining our Regional Specification Managers, Steve Bully and David Cunningham. Steve is normally based in the southwest of England, and David Cunningham is in South London. So Steve has gone up to London to visit David Cunningham, where they're going to be sharing best practice and taking a look at how their roles differ across the country. Let's head over to them now.
Hi, you're watching Aico TV. Today's episode is entitled London Calling. I'm Steve Bully, Regional Specification Manager for Aico, covering the southwest of England. And today we're in southwest London with my colleague and friend, David Cunningham. How are you doing, David?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well, Steve.
Fantastic. The sun's shining and it's really hot. What are we going to be doing over the next couple of days, Dave?
We're basically going to go doing a tour a bit about London, southwest area, sharing the genius really. So Steve's going to spend a couple of days experiencing my day-to-day job and looking at different issues that come around in London and possible solutions. So looking at different archetypes. So as RSMs nationally, we've all got different areas, different archetypes. So it's just to get a good understanding of what we all do really.
Sounds like a good couple of days, Dave. And we're outside a football ground here. Apparently the team played here, won a football match a couple of days ago.
That's right. Born and bred in this area, still buzzing. Champions of Europe. Can't be any better for me at the minute.
And how long have you supported Chelsea, Dave?
Well, some of my colleagues like to think it was 2005, but I can assure you I've been coming since '86.
Okay,
6-year-old.
And we'll take David's word for that. So thank you. Cheers. So Dave, sort of a wide range of property types here. We've got high-rise, terrace housing here. Fairly typical for your.
Yeah, I mean this is a very hustle built-up area, so we have got a good mix. As you can probably see in the photograph, we've got a tower up there, then we've got a mixture of 1- and 2-storey flats to the left, and we've got some terrace housing, which have been converted into street converted properties as well. So yeah, it's a very mixed bag, this area really.
Interesting, and we've actually got some access, I think, today, haven't we, to some street converted properties?
That's right, yeah, we've got a number of tenants that have allowed us to access, so they're happy to talk on camera as well and have a quick chat about their alarm system and why it's there, and so just to make sure they've got a good understanding really of how the system operates and why it's there in the first place.
Fantastic, thanks Dave. Right David, we're on a typical street in SW6, the London Borough of Hammersmith and Fulham.
Yep.
Is this fairly typical of the property types that you find in this area?
It is, yes. It's a typical residential street. I spent a lot of my childhood around this area, so I know it quite well. Mainly on this road here, we've got street converted properties, properties that have been converted into 2 flats or more. But yeah, it's very much typical of the current setup around this area in SW6.
Which housing associations are most prevalent in this?
There's a bit of a mix really, because you've got local authorities as well. So you've got Hammersmith and Fulham Council. These particular properties behind us are all Genesis Notting Hill, which our colleague Tina does a lot of work with in London. So yeah, there's a good mix. We've also got even some of the kids in the Chelsea housing stock falls into this area as well. So as I say, at Aico we're working with all 3 of those. They're all partners of ours. So yeah, it's a lot going on in this area at the moment.
All that, and that's from one of Chelsea's very own, David Cunningham. So now we're still in SW6, Hammersmith and Fulham. We've kindly been granted access to a property. What sort of property are we going to look at now, Dave?
This is a property that's very much typical of this street. So we're looking at a street converted property. So we've got a small communal area with a ground floor and a first floor flat. As I say, it is very typical of this area. The tenant is kindly let us get access to it to explore the system. From what I can remember, this is one of the properties that's due an upgrade, so we're just going to run through what needs to be upgraded.
And would you say this is fairly typical for the area or throughout the whole city?
It's for this area. I mean, there are street converted properties all over the city, but it depends for different boroughs. It depends on what parts of London you travel into. I mean, yeah, if you go into the main city centre, for instance, you don't get as many. But coming out onto the outskirts, there's every borough has got street converted properties.
And probably over 100 years old?
I think these were built, just over 100 years old. Yeah, so as I say, there's a number, as I said earlier on, there's a number of risks that have been identified for each street converting. So we'll go inside and discuss what some of those potential risks might be.
Yeah, let's head on in then, Dave.
Hello, Faith. Right, do you mind if we come in and have a quick look around? Thank you very much.
So, David, we're in the first communal area now. What's your initial thoughts?
Yeah, this is very much typical of a street converted property in this area. We've got a very tight, small communal space with a ground floor and a first floor flat. Some of the things that we would look at, and with a risk assessor is looking at, obviously we've got bicycles, step ladders in the hallway, which again is something that obviously it could be seen as a risk. We're fortunate in this one, we have actually got a landlord supply, which is rare because a lot of the street converted properties in London don't have a landlord supply. Therefore, it's very difficult to get grade D mains powered alarms installed. We've also had issues with the SmartLINK Gateway because of that, because we haven't got landlord supplies, therefore we cannot utilise the gateway. But as I say, this is a very small communal area. We do work in areas that are a lot bigger, sometimes going up to 3-storey, wider spaces. But there's no alarms currently out here at the moment, because this is one of the ones in line to be upgraded. So very soon this will have a grade D1 LD2 system throughout the communal area. We're also going to have low-level controllers here, 450 controllers. So that will allow the tenants or the residents to remotely test the alarms via a low-level switch, so it's nice and easy for them. And then what we would normally do in a street converted spec, obviously one of the solutions Aico would put forward is linking the communal system to a heat alarm behind the front door. And that way, if the tenant burns their toast or has a false alarm, it's not going to activate the communal area and the other flats within the building. It will be a local alarm. However, if there was a real fire, that heat alarm behind the front door would reach 58 degrees. That would then go into alarm and then alert the other tenants in the flats and the communal area to obviously get out of the building for an evacuation. As I said, this is one due to be upgraded. I think this is going to be done within the next couple of weeks. We are going to go into the flat itself now and have a look at the positioning and why they're positioned in those areas. But again, this flat's also on the list to be upgraded because it's currently got our 140 series products, which are mains powered alarms with battery backup. They're just not tamper-proof lithium batteries. So it just goes to show really that the expert installer training that we provide is working. People are following the rules. This particular housing association have worked with us very closely over the past few years anyway, so they very much know what they're doing. But it's always good to come in and just make sure, do spot checks from now from time to time, just to make sure everything's okay.
And the upgrades is kind of due imminently on this then?
That's right, yeah. I think they're just slowly making their way down the road. So we've got 3 or 4 blokes working for the contractor that are dedicated to doing the residential streets local to here. So yeah, hopefully they'll all be done within the next month or so.
So now, Dave, we're in what would have been the basement in this street converted property.
That's right, yeah. So this is a basement conversion. Again, we've got the optical alarm up there. In this area, we've got a bedroom, we've got a bathroom to your left-hand side there. But we've also got an external door going out to the garden, basement garden here as well. So really, in this area, as I said, it is a grade D1 LD2. We have got bedrooms covered under LD2 because we have got tenants with disabilities in the property as well. So they're looking after, obviously, the additional protection of bedrooms as well, because hard of hearing. Yeah, and it's pretty much, again, very, very similar layout to the previous flat. The main difference here is we've got an external door going out to the garden. So there will be a 450 controller coming on this level as well as upstairs in the hallway as well.
Would that be classed as an escape route, Dave?
Yes, this would definitely, part of the escape route in the street converted. As you say, the bedrooms, or one of the bedrooms are down here, so it's the fastest way out of the building in the event of fires if it happened during the night time.
So Dave, now we're on that stairway, just off that communal area.
Yep.
Do you want to head down and show us?
That's it, we're going to have a look to see what we got downstairs.
So Dave, now we're downstairs, and it really is an interesting layout of this property, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. I think it's quite difficult to catch on camera, the actual layout. There's some very tight runs and tight drops in ceiling height, as you can see we've got here again now, with a detector under there. So again, This forms what we've got in here is a shower. So it is quite a large shower, so the actual shower elements are right at the far end of the room. So hopefully we're not going to get any false alarms from here. But this is an optical alarm, not an ionisation. So you want to be at least looking at opticals, if not multi-sensors outside bathrooms to minimise nuisance alarms. Okay, and we've just got some cupboard space here. But as I say, this will also be upgraded to the 3000 series as and when we get round to doing the work here.
So now, Dave, find ourselves in the living room.
Yeah, the final room in the house. Again, system due to be upgraded, but we have got the distance again from the wall and from the lighting pendant. The alarm in here at the moment is actually an ionisation alarm. This is something that we no longer recommend due to nuisance alarms. So within the new specification for this RSL, we will be looking at moving that to an optical alarm.
So good afternoon, you're watching Aico TV, day 2 of London Calling. We're in the heart of southwest London now, on the King's Road in Chelsea, where we've been kindly invited in by the guys from Phoenix Bespoke Solutions. Very much one of your key contractors in the area, Dave.
That's right, yeah, I've spent the last couple of years working closely with Phoenix on a number of different projects. Today, 2 directors here, Eddie Mulqueen and Daniel Perrin, have invited us in to have a look round their offices and also to go through some fire alarm design work. So guys, thanks for seeing us today, thanks for inviting us in.
You're welcome.
Do you want to start off just by telling us a little bit more about Phoenix and what kind of work do you get involved in?
Well, predominantly we're a multidiscipline company, so we do electrical, fire and all the aspects of security. Fire is a big part of what we do, predominantly part 1. But obviously the area we're in and where we're based, there are a lot of nice high-end apartments and stuff like that. So, and we again, we predominantly go to Aico, don't we, Dan, you know, on that stuff.
Right.
The particular project we're looking at now, or hopefully helping us out with, is a HMO. Normally the HMOs we deal with in this area, because this project is an ongoing one that we've been working on for the last 5 or 6 years.
Right.
Again, all part 1, but in here, on this particular project, there are a number of private units.
So we've got a mixture of part 1 and part 6 detection going in. Obviously, Aico would be the part 6 detection.
Right.
Of choice.
Yeah. So this project we've got in front of us here, by coincidence, is called the Phoenix project, I believe. 9 blocks, 48 flats in total. What kind of grading category are we looking at?
Well, we've kept to the British standards. Within the communal areas, that's going to be L1, and it's going to be LD1 within the device.
Okay, right. So you're basically going over and above the recommendation what it says in PS 5839 Part 6.
Well, to a degree, but there's also been a fire risk assessment done as well. So we made sure that was in place before we even started. It was off plan, obviously, but that's how that's worked.
Okay, good. I remember coming in here a couple of months back now, doing a presentation to the Director of Estates on this project, and we went through the SmartLINK Gateway presentation. And I believe the good news is he's now decided to utilise that product.
He definitely has. I mean, he's got a duty of care to the people that are within the demise. It's a little bit different to what we normally have to work with, because these people are going to be private owners or tenants. So access to the property is going to be a lot more difficult than normal. So he also is responsible enough that he wants to keep an eye on the actual detection in there, make sure that it has been tested, if there are faults on it, low battery, etc. So that's where the link.
I remember at the time of the presentation he was a little concerned and relying on the tenants to test the system. So I think that was a big selling point for him there. So he could actually physically see if they were being tested, and if not, he could then get onto the tenants to basically say, look, why are you not testing this?
Exactly, and it's going to be a benchmark for the rest of the properties as well, because if it works well here, which I'm sure it will, we'll roll it out into the other smaller apartments and that as well.
And of course, added benefits once the gateway's in of future technologies that can then kind of connect into it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. We are going to get out and about and have a look at this project a bit later on. So yeah, we get some filming down there and get an idea of the size of the project. But Steve, like, as you're in London, how does this project compare to things that are going on in your area? Is it very different, or do you get similar projects?
No, but very similar, really. Sort of not it's obviously a bit more rural where I am, but obviously we've still got big cities, places like Plymouth, Exeter, things like reasonable sized places. But yeah, very much kind of the standard, keeping those two separate systems, part 1 in the communal area and then part 6 within the dwellings.
Yeah, I know that both of you guys are very hot to keep those two systems separate, part 1 and part 6.
Yeah, because I don't think there is a grey area. I know it's been mentioned before that there's areas where part 6 could just cover one part of the communal area, but personally we don't think that's the way forward.
That's what part 1's designed for, and part of LD detection is for the part 6 section, L1 communal to protect the stairs and communal areas.
But they can work well together. We can, especially with the interface and everything. It can, they can.
Yeah, I think as long as you're using it just as like a single output from the flat to a communal system, you're fine. But we're getting asked more and more now. Our technical team are getting calls about two-way systems. That's what you don't want to do that at all. Really, you want to keep it a single clean output to trigger your
completely out of the British standard, isn't it? Really.
Also, the different sound tones as well would interfere as well. So Aico's tone and the part 1 system would be on totally different tones. So you'd have conflict of sound patterns there as well.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. We're now still in southwest London, SW7 Onslow Gardens, where we've another project with Phoenix. Obviously, you guys seem to be doing quite a bit of work around here. It's 5 or 6 a year intruder alarm bell boxes up there.
At least, yeah.
But yeah, again, just tell us a bit more about yourselves and your background and the business.
Well, so predominantly we're electricians. That's what we are. That's where we're based.
Started out as electricians, and then, like everybody, fell into the fire alarm and security industry.
Yeah, and then moving on. So we're at the projects here again. This is where we have a lot of apartments. This is actually one building. This is one house. So there's an L1 in here, but most of the apartments along here and along that side are all part 6. So we do, and they're usually 2 to 3 bedroom apartments.
Okay.
So this
and
whole
again,
section.
Aico in there again, with links going.
RF links, yeah.
RF links.
Yeah.
So yeah, part 6.
Not all of them at the moment, but they will be eventually, and that's why we say that's the benchmark for hopefully springboard for rolling out the RF links into these as well, if they can see the fidelity of them all.
As a business, so obviously we've got our BAFE registration, we've got accredited date in our first year of trading. We've also got NSI Silver, and we're heading up the trail to the gold. That's our aim for next year. We're NIC EIC registered for the electrical side, and we're just growing steady pace.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah, it's good. In my previous life, I was involved in doing all the auditing for the NSI Gold accreditation. I know
it's a lot of work.
How much can be a pain. It is a lot of work to get there. So yeah.
You need a friendly bank manager as well.
We're on the right pathway. We're going in the right direction, which is good.
Yeah, it's good. It's just that we've been very lucky. We've been so busy, really. So we've got a lot of warehouses that we're doing at the moment. We've got schools. We've just finished off a lot of schools.
Yeah.
A couple of libraries. We've been.
A couple of law courts.
Yeah, we just it's quite an interesting project, even though it's a bit grim. It's the anti-ligature. So the problem with the covers is that they make the smoke detectors ineffective, and really it's only the Tyco type devices you can use. So we installed the Fire Class open protocol version. So we put a Fire Class panel in, and then the anti-ligature, which is a magnetic base. So you still have an open detector, but obviously if anybody tries to pull on that at all, then it'll just fall off the ceiling.
Okay. Yeah. As I say, I'm not as up to date as I used to be on my Part 1 stuff now. Obviously, mainly focused on the Part 6 world now. New technology coming out all the time. But in terms of going back to Aico, in terms of the product, why would you prefer Aico in Part 6 than any other product?
I think it's quite innovative. The one good thing over the years is that it had the same base for many years, so it was interchangeable, which was...
It still has, yeah.
Yeah, which is a great benefit. And we've got to give Aico credit. When you go to the Centre of Excellence, as you call it, but it's an amazing place. The training is really good, so you get good backup. tech support's excellent. Yeah. And the product is a good product. You know, you can't fault it. So, you know, why wouldn't you really? You know.
Oh yeah, as I say, it's good to hear, and hopefully, obviously now we've come out of lockdown, hopefully it stays that way, and we start having a few more events back at the Centre of Excellence, and we'll certainly be inviting you guys back down there again.
No, we'd love to come, and it makes a big difference, because some of the, you know, the other, your competitors, if you like, it's, well, we wouldn't know anybody from any of those, you know what I mean? You've got a face to the business, if you like.
Got that personal relationship with you guys, and the extra mile to come along and do things like you're doing today.
Yeah, no, it's good.
It makes all the difference.
Makes a big difference to us.
Yeah, no, as I say, it's good for Steve as well to get out into different areas, and I'm going to be heading over to Steve's area in a few months' time as well, just to get a feel for different customers, you know, and different things that are going on in our areas.
So thank you to Steve and David there for showing us what they get up to on a day-to-day basis, and also thank you to Edward Mulqueen and also Danny Perrin, who are the directors of Phoenix Bespoke Solutions, and it was great to see them talk about their ongoing fire detection system products. So now Alex is going to tell us about today's FAQ.
Brilliant, thanks Holly. Now we're at the final part of today's episode, which is our FAQ, and we're joined by Kieran Smith, who is going to tell us where to fit an EI 3028 heat and CO alarm.
Where do I fit an EI 3028 heat CO alarm? An EI 3028 heat CO alarm should be positioned in kitchens or garages where there is a high risk of high temperatures as well as carbon monoxide leaks. The alarm should be positioned between 1 and 3 meters of the fuel burning appliance, as well as at least a meter away from the oven.
Thank you to Kieran for sharing that information about the EI 3028 and where it's best to fit it. But unfortunately, that's all we've got time for on this week's episode. So thank you for watching, and please do not forget to subscribe to our Aico TV channel. Not only will you get the latest episodes, but also you'll get our latest videos and animations that we share throughout the year. You can also follow us on the following social media channels. Holly?
Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah, multiple channels for multiple content, so please follow us on them as well, and we hope to see you again soon.
See you soon.